Welcome to the Grow Fast podcast, where we talk with leading sales, marketing, and personal growth experts about how companies can accelerate sales, optimize marketing, and grow their businesses fast. Let's go.
Hey, Josh, how are you?
Hey, Mark, I'm good. Good to be here.
Hey, this is my first podcast in 2025, so thank you for coming on the Grow Fast podcast.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm excited to talk today.
Whereabouts you located?
I'm in San Antonio, Texas.
Oh, must be nice down there. What's the temperature right about now?
It is right now. It's 61 degrees outside and it's sunny. It's beautiful. I know we have that cold snap coming, but I think everyone's going to get hit by that.
Yeah, that's supposed to be like, especially if you're up in like North Dakota or something. Can you imagine? They're talking like 35 below. I mean, that's just nuts.
That's crazy. I mean, we had that one year it snowed here for like a week and it was like 9 degrees and it shut down the state. Millions
That's because,
of people
I think all the windmills and everything got shut down too, the wind power and everything.
All the windmills got stuck and the power overloaded. So we're not used to the cold here.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed it won't be so bad this time. Hey, I'm looking forward to talk to you because you and the firm that you work with are really deep subject matter experts in terms of optimizing LinkedIn strategies for businesses. I want to get into a couple different parts of that, both in terms of that content creation, personal brand building, and also advertising. And it's something that I've dabbled with, but I've never really gone deep on. So, but before we get into that, maybe you can tell me a little bit about your background and your company.
Yeah, sure. Let me go ahead and give a quick introduction. I appreciate that. So I spent the last 5 to 6 years growing an agency from the ground up with a couple partners at another company. I ended up becoming specifically in charge of the LinkedIn ads service. So initially we started as a messaging agency and we quickly scaled that. And as we grew, clients were begging us to run LinkedIn ads. We would tell them, hey, we don't have any experience running ads on LinkedIn. And they would tell us, like, we'll pay you to do it. And if you consider the timing of it, the company was founded back in 2019. So COVID hit, like March 2020 was when everybody went home and you couldn't go to business functions anymore, right. And you couldn't go to conferences. And so all these people were looking for a way to network their businesses. So it just kind of blew up on the messaging part of the business. But over the next year, as more restrictions came out from LinkedIn about messaging, people wanted to run ads. Right. So we released the ad service April 2021, and LinkedIn came out with the big restriction on connection requests May 2021. So my role was to grow the LinkedIn ad segment, basically took on, enough counts that I couldn't handle anymore, started hiring the next person and training, so on and so forth. Ended up during my time there over the next 3 years, seeing over 1,000 accounts on LinkedIn.
Wow.
And so after that, October this past year, I did become a LinkedIn certified marketing expert. LinkedIn flew me out to London, gave me the certification. I also got my LinkedIn Top Voice badge at some point last year. So I think I'm one of less than 5 people in the world that have both of those.
Well, congratulations. That's awesome. When you're talking about LinkedIn ads, it's interesting because we're talking in the context of B2B. So you're helping companies promote their businesses. I always think that when people are looking for a particular product or service, they're going to typically go to a search engine, Google, and search for that product or service. I kind of feel like LinkedIn is kind of like the B2B version of Facebook, where people are there to do other things and then they get served an ad. Maybe you can walk me through when you're advertising, are people actually searching for a product or service on LinkedIn, or are you just trying to figure out their intent?
Yeah, that's a great question. An important differentiation between the two types of platforms, I guess, two methodologies on what it is that you're marketing or how you're marketing. So Google's demand capture. Yeah. Right? When people are out there, you're looking up a solution, you're literally, in research mode to find some type of service to fix a problem. Google's there to capture that interest and then elevate the companies that are, bidding on those keywords to come up in front of that interested audience. When you run on LinkedIn, for the most part, if you're doing full funnel strategy, you're running a demand generation approach, which means you are trying to appeal to the people that make the decisions for your type of service or offer, and you're trying to get some semblance of interest, right? And same on Meta, right? But Meta is kind of like a different game. Like if you're on Meta, it's probably B2C type of play, because that's where the clients or customers are. And in the B2B space, it's LinkedIn, because that's where the professionals are. So you're trying to generate interest, and then you're trying to influence those people that you generated interest from into a conversion. And you do that by setting up strategies on the platform to grab the interest, build trust and credibility, and ultimately ask for the conversion, the next part of that process.
I want to kind of drill down on all of those areas, but let me just ask you, when you create awareness through that demand gen, how do you, like, because if it were me, I'd be like, oh, I didn't know that this kind of, I run a company that does RFP software, and maybe I'm a proposal manager, and I didn't know that there was such a thing as RFP software. And I'm like, oh, here's an ad, and I might click on it, or I might just go over to Google and just type in and see what Google, what the results are there. So how do you kind of balance that out?
Well, it's important to have an element of both.
Okay.
Right. It's important to maintain some type of demand capture element on Google to capture that traffic. And it's important to build that demand in the first place. And it is true that somebody else could have created the demand. Another company could have created that demand. They had the ad, someone got interested. So when they went and Googled the solution, somebody else came up because they weren't on Google. So
they get the capture.
Yeah, exactly. And I talk about this pretty often, but marketing and advertising work best in an ecosystem. It works best by using or utilizing different channels in a cohesive way to make sure that you have different strategies to both engage people and get people interested, but also capture that interest and then still work them into your funnel.
Makes a lot of sense. Okay, why don't we do this? Let's back up a little bit. And do you work with any SaaS companies?
Oh yeah, so SaaS has always been the main vertical. There seems to be always a lot of need within that industry. So SaaS is probably the biggest industry that I've worked with.
Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm running a small SaaS company. We're targeting SMBs, and if you were going to work with us, where would we start? What would be the questions you'd be asking, and then what would be like the first few steps?
Yeah. So, first would be an analysis. It would be a discussion saying, what type of product do you have? Is it sales led? Is it product led? Are you funded? Like, what kind of budget are you going to have for advertising? All the preliminary information to figure out what we even can do, what the budget allows us to do. I often say you either have low budget, which means you have to put in more work into building your presence and building your brand, and you can supplement that with other channels. Or if you can have, the more you increase your budget, the more budget you put behind it, the more you can have done for you. So once I take that initial assessment, figure out, all that information, do you have blogs? Do you have white papers? Do you have content? Like what do you have? From there, it would then be to figure out or build a strategy around how we're best going to advertise and market you. So as I mentioned, probably one of the definite things I'm going to have in place is Google. I'm going to have something there to capture demand. Now keep in mind, Google a lot of times is also not scalable. There's a limit to how much you can get on Google. And also it's very competitive, especially if you're in your SaaS offering is in a space that has a lot of competition in it. So that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have it though, right? You at the very least want to make sure you put some budget behind your high intent keywords and behind your name. Now, the other part of it that I would do, I'd probably put more money in if you're just getting started and you're just starting to really start your marketing and advertising, is you have to build your brand. And one of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of times is people have an expectation that once they start marketing or advertising, they're going to get short-term ROI from it. And most likely you're not going to do that. And it's really difficult, right? Especially when you're a startup or you're still in the preliminary stages of your business, because every dollar that comes out of your pocket hits you harder than some larger, enterprise corporation. But you have to see it as an investment, because the first step you have to do is you have to build brand equity. You have to get your name out there. So that's where LinkedIn comes into play. If you're a B2B SaaS company, LinkedIn has the most up-to-date professional data in the world, right? And anybody changes jobs, they change roles, anything that deals with their profession, LinkedIn is the first place it's going to get updated. They teach this in college now, right? You don't leave college without having one of your classes tell you about starting a profile on LinkedIn and making sure that you maintain it. And then the other is the professional filters. So if you very specifically want to make sure to target the people that you know would make the decision to buy your product or your service, that's where you're going to do it. So if I'm going to start with a SaaS company, it's going to be a preliminary analysis over what you are, what your approach is, who you are as a company, what's your brand, what's your voice, what's your unique value proposition. Then from there, it's going to build out an ecosystem. We're going to have an element of demand capture, and then we're going to start breaking it down on LinkedIn to see how are we going to engage people, draw that interest, and from there, fulfill the other parts of the funnel, which is build trust and credibility and ultimately drive conversions.
So, what does it take in terms of time, resources, and tactics and strategy to build that brand awareness?
Yeah. So, it doesn't have to start with a lot. You can start getting meaningful data without having like your full, what I like to call storefront ready, right? Because obviously you want your website in place. You want it to be as conversion friendly as possible. And a lot of people, I know they're not web designers and it's not their job to do that. I try to simplify it. If you look at your website, like, is it friendly and inviting, right? Is it easy for people to use? Is it easy for people to navigate? That's step one. Now, even when you start running ads, and even if you're trying to do some preliminary testing, which by that I mean you can put a small budget to ads, put in your target audience, your full ICP or your full addressable market, let that run for about a month or so with maybe a few different messages that you think would appeal to people, and see what they engage with the most. Look at the data and see who out of your total addressable market is clicking the most on the ads. That's the specific ICP that you're most likely want to gear your messaging around and specifically target them. And then the ads that they're engaging with, that's also the message that you want to start building content and additional ads around. So to me, that's kind of step one. Do some research. Find out what's appealing to the market right now. Find out where the need in the market right now is. You don't need a lot of budget to do that. You can run a $500 campaign and get some of that data. The other part that you'll want to spend your time working more on is content and visibility. So creating content for your site, any blogs, right? Any expertise that you can put down, any white papers, any resources you can provide. Also on your LinkedIn profile, you want to make sure you're posting about these things. Don't do it for the likes or the engagement. Just post, because it's going to come to a point when you do start getting traction and you start getting a lot more people looking at your business, you're starting to get a lot more volume, that they're going to go back and they're going to see this history of posts, and they'll even start engaging with your old stuff, right? So don't worry about the engagement. Start sharing your expertise.
Okay, so let me ask you, because when it comes to, we'll jump back to Google for a second. There are a kind of couple different schools of thought in terms of the posting content. One is, you want to post very super high quality content that engages with your target audience. Another one is, what your target audience probably isn't going to find you if you're not ranking in Google. So you just post a lot, because really your target audience is Google and that algorithm, so that they start to boost you up in some of the organic search results. Okay. Then if you take some of that content and put it on LinkedIn, it's not the highest quality content. So maybe you don't want to do that. So, how do you deal and balance that out?
Yeah. So kind of one of the tricks with Google is, you look at the keywords that people are looking up that doesn't have a lot of difficulty to place with. So, you could do some keyword research, see what in your industry people are searching, and then create content on your website around that to make it easier to rank with those types of keywords. That takes a lot of time too, and you need a Google expert to do so, unless you're proficient with Google yourself. But that's kind of the trick in knowing like what type of content to create for your site. Now, that's not always the same kind of content that you're creating for LinkedIn. So it does take time. There's no easy way around that. Obviously I didn't speak much yet about our business now, but with Influent, That's a service that they offer, right? And they offer it because it is so busy for people to post, to come up with meaningful content, to establish themselves as thought leaders, to reply to comments, to comment on other people's posts, because that's almost equally important. If you see other people in your industry and you're making meaningful comments on their posts, people see that. I would say they probably see that more than they actually see your posts. But look at what's trending. You can look up your competitors and look up the ads of your competitors in LinkedIn ads library and see what type of content they're running and see what they're posting about and see what kind of engagement they're getting. And then you can start making content on the same kind of trending topics.
So what I've heard you say a couple times now is, with minimal spend, you can use LinkedIn platform and some of the tools they provide to do some kind of A/B testing to see, what works for you, but then also check on the competitors, see what's working for them. So you can learn from that very, very quickly.
Yes, exactly. And you'll want to do that. You'll want to know what they're doing, right? And that helps you position yourself as well.
Let me ask you, again, coming back to the SaaS example, tell me a success story and also put in the timing. Like if you wanted to manage expectations, let's say somebody's selling, a SaaS solution and they're like, because when you're in startup mode, you need customers, you need that traction ASAP, right?
Yeah,
so
you do.
Tell me a success story, and then also, manage my expectations in terms of how long does this take? How much money is it going to cost?
Yeah. So, I have a story that mixes both of those together because, in reality, it's going to take 3 to 6 months to really start seeing results if you're starting from nothing. Right. And keep that in mind. I say that in a very specific way because you have to build it from the ground up. You have to build a funnel. Where most conversions and most leads come from is from retargeting interested prospects. It's people that visited your website, they visited your company page, they interacted with your top of funnel ads, and now you need to stay in front of those people, right? Because you want to stay top of mind. If you really think about it, I have multiple stories around this, about your own process, right? And your own buying process and things that you may have purchased. There was a product I recently purchased that I think it took me like 2 years or maybe 3 years to actually get. But, that company kept running these ads, I would actually click on the ads every now and then just so I stayed in their funnel, just so I didn't forget because I knew I wanted it. I just couldn't get it at the time. And finally I ended up converting. So it's the same here, right? These people and business moves are hard. I know you want results quick, but I know when I was growing the last agency, when even just switching from a spreadsheet to ClickUp, a project management tool that we're also using in CRM, that was a lot of work to migrate all our information from the spreadsheet and to teach the team how to use it, to learn how to use it, right? That's a lot of money too. So There's no really small moves in business. So you have to keep that in mind. What's really important is starting that engagement and then retargeting. So very specifically with the company I worked with, it was actually a CRM tool. Okay. And, it was the same kind of thing. We had to grow it from the ground up and you have to optimize based on the data that you're getting. So when we started it, month one, we're focused on brand awareness. We're focused on volume. We're focused on top of funnel, figuring out which pain points and benefits are going to drive the most volume and then start A/B testing those and optimizing for that. What month 2 looks like is just starting your retargeting campaigns. So now it's taking those assets, either your posts that you've been doing for thought leadership on LinkedIn, any blogs or white papers, ebooks, articles, anything that we have that can give you credibility into what you do instead of your competitors, you're going to start that on month 2. And that's going to start building up those touch points. And what you're also going to see is like 10 times more engagement when one of those prospects clicks on those and goes back to your site. They're going to start exploring your site and spending a lot more time there. Now, keep in mind, even if you Google it, it says, you need 12 to 18 touch points for conversion. I think in my experience, it's more like 20, 30, 40. Wow. It's hard to put an exact number, but we know it's quite a bit. So in that second month, you've built up maybe 3 to 6 more touch points. So now we're talking about like 6, maybe 7, right? So in that third month, that's typically when you'll start getting results. Because now you're kind of getting to that point, another additional 3 to 6 touch points. Now you're mixing conversion ads. right? Because you know somebody's engaged with your brand. You've been building trust and credibility. Now it's time to ask the question and take that relationship to the next level. And so now you're mixing in there social proof and testimonials, big bolded benefits of ways that you've improved revenue, or your offer has, made companies more efficient, or whatever it is, percentages, numbers, right? And you're asking for that next step. And now you should be getting leads. After the third month, now you can really start optimizing for leads, A/B testing conversions on the site, maybe lead gen forms on the platform, figuring out exactly which demographics are converting at the highest rate and at the lowest cost, and then optimizing again and again for those things to achieve the best ROI. So a very specific example, and this was actually with a company that was running $10,000 a month. Mm-hmm. And this is different from the CRM one. Excuse me, I'm getting a little topic. The CRM one, we ended up running them for like 2 years. From that 4th to 6th month, we started seeing results. But the reason this other one comes to mind is I have very specific numbers here. They were running $10,000 a month. In the first month, I think we got 1 conversion, maybe 2 at $10,000 a month. The second month we had like 5, I think. The third month we had like 10. So we're talking about $30,000 in the hole with about 15 conversions. That doesn't equate there, right? The numbers aren't good enough to justify. If they had stopped there, it would have been the worst thing, right? Everybody that stops after that third month, when you're finally getting to that point where you've built up enough touch points, you're now losing it. You're stopping dead in its track. Any additional touch points that you might be running or any conversion-led ads. On the 4th month, we had 20 conversions. Wow. On the 5th month, we had 40 conversions. And this isn't a cumulative, right? This is month to month, the amount of conversions that we were getting. So something you see, like even on the advertising page on our website, on Influent, is exponential results. Mm-hmm. Long-term solution with exponential results. Because the more people that you get into your funnel, the longer that you can build those touch points, the more people you're going to end up converting. Right. Now, it's not easy, right? It takes analyzing the data, it takes optimizations, it takes testing. But if you're doing it the right way and you keep moving forward and investing in it, you'll continue seeing those results grow.
And you said the budget on that was like $10K a month.
For them, it was $10K a month. Yeah. Yeah.
This seems like pretty reasonable pricing and timing. I'm sure that's like a success story for a reason, because it's, it was a big success. Right. What's been the most challenging product or service that you've tried to promote awareness of on LinkedIn? And you don't have to give a specific company name, but like maybe just talk about the type of service.
So, the first thing that pops up into mind without really like thinking about it twice is like coaching. It's professional services. And it's a highly competitive area. And then it's really hard to differentiate yourself from other coaches. But a lot of coaches want to do it because they're targeting business professionals. Sure. So they want to run on LinkedIn, but it is extremely difficult. And a lot of times they have the money to do so also, but it's just hard to get those kind of results. There's also situations in almost every industry where you're targeting something so niche that it's hard to justify a continuous type of program on LinkedIn. Because if you don't even have 5,000-10,000 people in your ICP or total addressable market, you're really not going to be able to grow your results. Mm-hmm. You're going to milk that for everything that you can, and you can hammer it as much as you can, but you will see diminishing returns, after a while.
Makes a lot of sense. LinkedIn also gives you the capability of, running campaigns by country. Have you ever done anything out of the US?
Yep. I've run worldwide campaigns. In fact, the CRM example I was giving earlier, we did that in the Dutch Holland area. Like we targeted Sweden, we targeted Germany, targeted Holland. So it was like out in the European area.
How do you help a company decide? Obviously they have an idea of where they want to market their services, but you would have a perspective in terms of when they're going to get more bang for the buck in terms of those other markets. Because I know, for example, if you want to advertise in India, for example, it's going to be less than if you're going to advertise in Europe, right? So how do you help the customer decide that?
Well, typically it's the quality of the conversions as well. And that's something that you just pick up over time.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times it's also just the data. So it's hard to tell someone exactly how effective it's going to be in each country. Like a lot of people want to target US, right? Because that's where a strong market is. That's where you have a lot of potential prospects. It's also highly, highly competitive. Sometimes it's easier to get in like a European market. But it can depend. Now there is additional research that you can do, to figure out, what kind of reach you can get in a country, what typically for your type of offer is a conversion rate for other companies. LinkedIn makes that information available. So you can find that information, but it takes some upfront research. And a lot of times for me, it's about testing, right? So what I do, and even for the CRM company, we did the same thing, is I segmented countries into different campaigns and I ran ads for each of those countries. And based on where I saw us getting the most engagements and leads, we started moving budget more and more to those until we shut off the countries that weren't performing.
Okay. Pretty much every part of sales and marketing is being impacted by AI and AI powered tools.
Yep.
What are you guys using to make your job or life easier or more impactful?
Yeah, so I use AI like as an assistant, and it works pretty well. So when I'm first building out a strategy plan and I want to find competitors and I want to find the positioning, so I've seen over 1,000 ad accounts. That doesn't make me an expert in every single industry that there is, right? And when you work with somebody, you want them to be an expert in what you do. So obviously there's some verticals like SaaS, IT services, marketing agencies, that I've worked with the most, that I have specific, knowledge in, that helps me be have more expertise in those industries. That being said, I use AI to help me come up with marketing plans. I use AI to help me, edit or create like statements of work, depending on what a customer wants, to review contracts. A lot of times, especially once you get with bigger companies, they have a lot of nuances that they have in their contracts, or they want to edit your contracts with a lot of red lines based on you having to adhere to their company's policies. And I would miss some of the jargon that's in there without using AI. I even help it come up with some creative ideas. Now you don't want to take out the authenticity, right? So creative is kind of that line for me where you don't want copywriting done by AI and you don't want designs done by AI. I might swallow my words a little bit because some great campaigns have had AI images and I'm like, oh, this is going to do horrible. And then everybody clicks on it, right? I don't know if those are high intent clicks, but I've seen it. But you can tell when AI runs the copy and it loses the authenticity of having a person behind it. So instead of that, how I use it to supplement what I do, again, is more of an assistant to get strategic ideas. I'm actually building AI bots. So I have fed all my audits that I've done into an AI bot so that I can then share that AI bot and people can ask it questions about their own setup and it can give them an audit based on that.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I've also done the same with strategies. So I've obviously built, a ton of different strategies from all kinds of budgets, from $500 a month up to over $100,000 a month, feed them all into AI. So if people ask that bot strategy questions, it can come up with the top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel strategy for you based on my best practices and the way I typically structure them. So
that's awesome. So, I mean, the challenge traditionally with the service industry is it's hard to scale without adding more people. And what I'm hearing you say is these AI bots are allowing you to scale
exactly.
without adding more people. That's great. Where do you go and what resources do you recommend to kind of stay ahead of the curve in terms of best practices on LinkedIn and what LinkedIn is going to be doing tomorrow?
Probably the best thing to do is follow people on LinkedIn. Now that I have more of the inside perspective as well. So now that I'm a LinkedIn expert, I have access to the LinkedIn trainings that are things that are either coming out or most relevant for them. They will invite you to different things like being a LinkedIn advisor. They have LinkedIn articles, and really the content creators, because LinkedIn gives them the newest, best things so that they can go post content about it. I guess it's the same kind of mentality over if there's people talking about it, people trust people over the company. And so, LinkedIn, when they paid for this trip to London and gave me the certification, you think like, wow, like that's crazy. They're paying for all this. But what's the trade-off for them? I'm out here posting regularly about their best practices, new industry tips and tricks, and up-to-date information. So it is the best place to do that. And again, follow the kind of people that are posting on these things. Find the people that are those LinkedIn experts. They have a LinkedIn influencer. They have a LinkedIn influencer group now, and they feed all them that information. And just agencies in general. So if you are going to work with an agency, a lot of agencies have kind of like the up-to-date information. So LinkedIn's going to be the best place to find out about that. Sounds like some great advice.
Last couple questions. A lot of people, I would say the majority of people that I know and that I see on LinkedIn, they post once in a while and they'll like something or comment, but it's very much an ad hoc kind of process or activity. There are some people who are really trying hard to become quote unquote influencers. And I see some people fail. And then I see some people who have amazing success, maybe have 100,000 followers on LinkedIn, for example. What's the difference? And how do you get from, because everybody, even the people who do the random post, I know most people, they want more likes and more shares and all, but so many people just can't figure it out. How do you get from here to that influencer level?
Yeah, it's tough. You have to constantly stay on top of the LinkedIn algorithm. And this is something even I appreciate, from obviously I have a really good understanding of the effectiveness of doing like thought leader posts and utilizing those for campaigns and building your brand. Sometimes it's a grind, right? You share your expertise slowly, but surely you start gaining followers. But one thing that I've learned from being with Influent is like the algorithm hacks. So there are things that they want you to post about. And, so I kind of have mixed feelings about this because, you can do things in a certain way that helps LinkedIn promote your ads more. If you look at the impressions that your posts, if you look at the impressions your posts are getting, if you do something that's like, if you post on something that's recent news that LinkedIn put out there, they will promote your ad more. If you do something that's contradictory or conflicting, basically to cause some kind of emotion within you, right? They will promote that more. The way that you even structure what you write and the way that you start your heading or your headline on a post, that can get more, interactions. There's a lot of little details like this. And I'm not perfect at it either. So, I started kind of like that. When I started the ad section, the owner of the previous company, the founder of the previous company, he was already a LinkedIn influencer. He had like 30,000 followers. So I just started posting once or twice a week. I really wouldn't mind. I tried to step it up, but it was hard. Like you said, I'd go like a couple things every now and then, maybe make a comment. But now that I'm the face of this branch of our company, I'm making an effort to do it every day as much as possible, right? Like 3 to 4 times a week, I'm posting, I'm engaging with other posts. And that's the way that you pick up followers. Yes, you can try to figure out the algorithm. You can try to hack the algorithm. You can try to get 1 million impressions and something goes viral. But really, the way to build those followers is consistent posting and consistent engagement. And that's what you need to follow. And sometimes you'll have something go viral. I had one go viral that I've had multiple posts go viral, but one that upset me is I didn't have something to post one day, and LinkedIn had come out with this new catch-up feature. And it shows like people's birthdays and, other kind of like information that's not professionally relevant. You get these notifications and I didn't want to see these notifications. And there's a way to turn them off. But before I even like looked into that, I took a screenshot, I made a post and ranted about it. And I had like 10,000 impressions within the first few hours. Hundreds of people were like,
posted. It was a negative post against this new feature?
Yes.
And LinkedIn still promoted it. Or at least didn't throttle it down. Well, that's
right. No. They didn't necessarily promote it, but you can tell when LinkedIn gives you a lot more impressions or it doesn't.
I've noticed, for example, any time that I link outside of LinkedIn in a post, I just get hammered. I mean, even little stuff that I would call it petty. So, for example, I do a podcast and I put the thumbnail or I put the link to the YouTube video of the podcast in there, LinkedIn will give me this tiny little image, right? But if I screenshot the thumbnail for the podcast and put the link to the podcast underneath it, the screenshot comes up big, and because it's just a graphic, right? And it's not necessarily a link off their platform. I kind of find that's, but well, what am I going to do, man?
Right? Yeah, it's their platform.
Against the machine, it's not going to work, man.
Yeah, they're going to do those things, and as much as you still want it also to be like what's LinkedIn, they should just promote the more professional things. They also want as many users as they can get on the platform.
Yeah.
And things that people engage with are typically like inflammatory type of content. And, you want to try to remain professional at the same time. Like they're going to show you what people engage with.
Wow. Well, hey, Josh, I've learned a lot already here, and you've got me motivated to learn even more. I realize that I've been just missing some big opportunities on LinkedIn, because as I said, my usual strategy since the beginning of LinkedIn is just post something once in a while and hope for the best.
Yeah.
But both on the advertising side and on the content creation side, I think there's a lot more that can be done. If people want to reach out to you or find out more about Influent and the services that you offer, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way is to go to our site. It's influent.co. I'm on the advertising page, so it gives more information about me. My email's on there. You could also book a call with me if you ever want to chat. Alternatively, you can always contact me through LinkedIn. It's linkedin.com/in/Joshua-Stout. But just look up Joshua Stout.
Mine is, man.
If you just look up Joshua Stout, there's multiple Joshua Stouts, but you'll probably see mine. But yeah, check us out on Influent. Again, we have two halves of the business. So we have the executive thought leadership offer, which means that we help people build their LinkedIn presence. We help them come up with engaging posts. We try to get them viral posts, and we really build that thought leadership. The other side of it is LinkedIn ads, and that's what I run. I brought my extensive experience in running ads on LinkedIn, and now I'm building out this segment here. So really, and you'll find this on LinkedIn, the trending topic right now is thought leadership in conjunction with paid ads. It's building your presence, but also implementing a paid ad strategy to boost and promote that. So that's something we didn't get a lot of chance to talk about, Mark. You can be posting, and then you can, on your ad platform on Campaign Manager, you can put some budget behind boosting that to your target audience.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And not only that, you can put an audience in place so that anybody that engages with those posts, you can move them into a separate bucket, and then you can target them with more of your posts. And so what you're doing is you're finding the people interested in engaging with your posts, and then you're putting more posts in front of them to engage with.
Well, and let me ask you this, because there's a lot of talk about, hey, you need to develop your personal brand on LinkedIn, and which is a little bit separate from thought leadership, okay? Because thought leadership could be specifically about the problem that your company or service is trying to solve, or that domain. And then there's the advertising to boost either your personal brand building post, or to kind of accelerate or create additional awareness around your thought leadership. And then there's just, you're targeting this ICP, and you're going to run, I wouldn't call them random ads, but targeted ads towards the ICP. There's a couple different moving pieces there, because again, I could be promoting my personal brand, promoting thought leadership, or our product and service to our ICP. Walk me through how you balance that out, okay? Because a lot of CEOs, they like, I want to build my brand. Well, wait a minute, we need to focus on thought leadership. Oh, wait a minute, maybe we just need to focus on that ICP. And then I have a question about the actual ad itself. But go ahead. How do you balance those first? So
from even what I've seen on my other half of the business here is there's pillars that he creates, and one pillar is thought leadership. One pillar is talking about yourself, maybe entertainment type of post. Another might be like inspirational type of post. And there's a percentage breakdown there. So the heavier percentage lies on thought leadership, because it's your expertise, right? What makes you the best. But you're absolutely right. Thought leadership is separate from brand because brand includes a human element there. Right. Thought leadership, it would just be pure expertise posts all the time. And that's really not building your brand as a person. Mm-hmm. So as a person, you want to include those other elements in there. So he has like 3 or 4 pillars in his strategy on how he divides that up and then makes a posting schedule based off of that. So that's how you build your brand. And that's also the difference. I actually made a post when I came back from London about the difference between content creators and thought leaders. Because thought leaders, they don't care. They're just posting their expertise. Content creators are doing a mixture of things. And did that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go. I said last question a couple questions ago. Sorry about that. But let's go back to the I can't know where we started with just the ads. What are your best practices in terms of the tagline, the call to action, the copy? I don't even know like what are the limitations in terms of content on ads on LinkedIn, but maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I want to give you the best advice that I can for almost anyone running on LinkedIn. If you're running at least $1,000 on LinkedIn, you can follow this basic setup. And it's really separate your funnel layers. So ensure that you have a top of funnel specifically dedicated to targeting cold traffic, right? People that don't know about your brand. We're going to define it by these are people that, as far as I know, have never seen my brand before. And use a variation of at least 5 ads. Typically, it's 5 ads top of funnel. This audience, if it's 20 to 80,000 up to 500,000, really don't want to go that high. Definitely don't go over 500,000. If it's that big, you want to use additional filters. But use 5 ads and use a different pain points, different images, and different copy to appeal to them. And we spoke a little about this earlier. You're trying to figure out which of those is the most appealing. Then you can stop the other ads, start A/B testing the high performing ads, but you need to figure out what's sticking out to people. And a really quick a tip on the intro part, because it's intro. Yeah. It's the text on the ad and it's a headline. For the intro, try to keep it under 70 characters if you can. You don't want it to be truncated where they have that button to hit see more. Yeah. The most effective one has a shorter intro to it, but A/B test it, right? There's never one answer for everything. On the call to action, learn more. It should be learn more. You should send people to your website so they can find out more about you without feeling the obligation to convert. Then when you build your middle of funnel campaigns, use 10 to 15 ads. And I want to use a variation of content. I say variation so much. If people did it as a drinking game, everyone would be drunk. Because you want different things. You don't want to bludgeon someone over the head with the same testimonial or the same blog or the same white paper over and over and over again. Use as much variation as you can. So one day they can see a blog and another day they might see a white paper. Another day they might see a testimonial with a direct call to action. And again, these are still learn more, and you're sending someone to a blog or something they can read, or they can download the content straight from the platform. Now, finally, for your bottom of funnel layer, these are the ads that we talked about earlier that highlight revenue and percentages, but they ask for the next step. Those say schedule a demo, right? Yeah. Sign up or whatever. This asks for it. Now, if you're running at $1,000 budget, mix these in with your middle of funnel ads. I would probably run like 6 and 6 or 7 and 7, something like that. If you have enough budget to create a separate bottom of funnel layer, run another 10 to 15 ads in there. Gotcha. And again, variation, right? A variation of testimonials, success stories, awards, partners, revenue, percentages. And if you can keep distinct ads around those things and create that variation of it, that's the best advice that I can give you. And you would be surprised at how many people don't do that and how you can take advantage of implementing a system like that. Wow. That's a lot there. And that's something you guys all do. Yes. Yeah. So we do all of that. Yeah. For our you're talking and I'm like, how am I going to do all that? That's one thing that even with our posts and the things I've always done with my posts, I'm like, do you share your secret sauce? Yeah. Right? Because if you share your secret sauce, other people are going to learn. Well, the way I always thought of it is if you can take what I do best or what we do as an agency best, great. If you can use it to help your company, great. But a lot of people will also say, Man, that's a lot.
That's a lot
There's
of
a
work.
lot that goes into those. And so for those people, they're just seeing the expertise that we have, the reasoning, the logic behind why we implement systems and what it takes to test it. And they'll want a partner that can do that for them.
Awesome. Well, hey, Josh, really enjoyed this conversation, learned a lot. And like you said, you've got me motivated now to go down that rabbit hole even farther.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the Grow Fast podcast, and wish you an amazing 2025.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. It was a pleasure.
Cheers.